So Flip, last night, you and I sat right here, as a matter of fact, and we did a little leader seminar, and I learned so much about building the perfect tarpon leader. I learned 3 or 4 new knots. I went into my room and practiced. I practiced again today, and it was a game changer today. It was the perfect leader.
They were turning over good.
And I fought an 80-pound plus tarpon, I don't know, for quite some time on 20-pound class tippet, or 22-pound class tippet. But you also shared with me something that might have blown my mind even further, and that was how you use the moon phase to tell the tides. And we shared this with Travis today. He was blown away, but he could probably use a little further explanation.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a captive audience. He has to put up with it.
Yeah.
When we were guiding every day, and down there, I mean, we guided every day all year long. I mean, it was nothing to guide 270, 280 days a year, and I was never a guide on weekends and holidays when other people were out. You know, I'd always try to stay under the radar. But we did use the moon instead of tide charts. We understood tide charts, and they existed.
Okay.
But it was just easier. I fished all of the keys in the Everglades, and at the Miami Harbor entrance, they had done tide soundings for years and years and years and kept records. So they knew exactly what the tide was going to be on every single day of the year.
Sure.
How high the tide would be, how low the tide. They knew the whole thing, and the Miami Herald published a little card, and they would put this card at every single tackle store in South Florida. And when you'd pay for whatever you were buying at the tackle store, you'd just pick up one of these cards, and it had the tides for the month on there and the moon phases. I might fish Biscayne Bay today, and the tides in Biscayne Bay would be very similar to the tides at the Miami Harbor entrance. So I could judge my tides from there. But when I would get down to Flamingo in the Everglades, you know, at the bottom of the peninsula, you could notice that the tide there was the opposite of Miami Harbor entrance plus 2 hours. 2 hours, and the plus 2 hours in the opposite tide. So it was high at Miami Harbor at noon. It was low at Flamingo at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
So we knew the variables of the tide, but it was still high and still low. And so we knew that if today was the full moon, which today is the full moon, and the tide at Miami Harbor entrance was, I'm thinking way back now, the tide at Miami Harbor entrance was low at noon on the full moon. It would be low at Miami Harbor entrance on every full moon at 1 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, forever and ever. It's always the same on the full moon. It might be higher or lower based on the apogee or the perigee of the moon, because of the moon's elliptical orbit around the Earth, but it would always be low at noon at the Miami Harbor entrance when it was a full moon. So we could look up at the moon and see the full moon. We knew what the tide would be at Miami Harbor entrance. We knew that at Flamingo, at Cape Sable, it was the opposite tide plus 2 hours.
Man.
And we knew that at Islamorada on the ocean side, it was 2 hours later than Miami Harbor entrance. So it was low at noon there. It would be low at noon at Islamorada on the ocean side, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Same tide, but 2 hours later, and so forth and so on.
And you
Key
said,
West tides would
and you said it would also be the same on the new moon.
be the same on the new moon.
So on the full moon and the new moon, so you could always look up at the moon and know what you were dealing with on any given day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you knew the moon phase,
You didn't know that.
Right now.
You didn't know that, right?
No.
You didn't know that.
I mean,
See that?
I never studied it that way, you know.
No, I didn't
Because we got
either.
all this technology. I
That's what the
just
moon
look
is
at the
right
moon, the chart, and
it's full,
I'm
right?
high, I'm
The
low.
waxing.
Well, you're
Waxing
looking
gives-
at your
Yeah.
machine or your phone.
It's
or,
not full,
It's
not full yet.
so it's
Well, I mean, but
it's
that's
waxing
that's
gives-
some
got one more day or
some
something.
good knowledge, man.
that's
Look
some
up the
stuff.
tide at the Miami Harbor entrance.
They had to think like that.
It's full
You know, we have
tomorrow.
all this technology. They really,
Look up the tide
They
at
didn't
Miami
have
Harbor
the
entrance.
technology that we
yeah,
do.
we've got all of it.
Harbor-
Now they didn't have it, and
Entrance.
they really had it in their mind.
So they learned to go by the moon, and
Yeah.
they figured that stuff out, and that's something that you and I just don't have, but we can. I mean, we're lucky we get to sit here.
Yeah,
and
you get to glean from that.
We get to glean from that, and
So it's incidentally, just to carry it one step further, if you have a half moon, if you have a quarter moon,
Right.
the tide will be the same on the quarter moon.
Yeah, it follows that.
Yeah,
That program.
Yeah. forever, 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 forever.
that's wow.
So we used to use the moon and the tides to figure the worm hatches. So we knew what tide phase the worms like to hatch,
Yeah.
and we knew relative to the moon when those tides would occur, what time of year and everything. I mean, we knew that I don't know, it's been so long since I've figured all this, since I've, had to figure this stuff.
Sure.
But we used to figure the worm hatch always occurred the last moon, new or full, in May, which might be this moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're
that on that falling water at the Bay Honda Bridge in the Keys, the worms would run. I'm sure that you've probably fished that
I have, yeah.
with Bruce.
I fished it with Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah, was it amazing?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
So when do you want to know? For tomorrow?
No. I just want to know, what it is at noon.
At noon, it's going to be a low.
See, I mean I remember this from.
Look at that.
I remember this from. It was so ingrained in my brain from everyday guiding.
every day thinking that way.
Yeah. So okay, low at noon.
That's
So-
crazy, man.
So it would be low at Alamorada at 2 o'clock. It would be low at Cape Sable. It would be high at Cape Sable at 2. Snakebite,
Yeah.
for example.
Oh my God.
Snake
How many
bite.
times have I heard Vince and Uncle Bill say snake bite in my lifetime?
So snakebite
Oh my God.
would be like 3 hours later than Cape Sable, because it took all that water coming out from snakebite going toward the Gulf for snakebite to drop, for the tide to drop down in snakebite. So just from knowing Miami Harbor entrance, I knew Alamorada, I knew Marathon, I knew Cape Sable, I knew snakebite, I knew,
Yep.
just like you would know here when the tide is high at on the Cape.
Yeah.
Here, you know that somewhere way up at the head of the bay, it's 2 hours later
That's right.
or something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I have no idea, but you do.
Yeah.
What else is interesting about it is that probably 2 or 3 generations ago, which is no time at all, everybody who was worked in the outdoors or farmed or whatever knew all this stuff.
That's right.
They knew the stuff. I mean, it was part of their world, and
How they plan it or anything.
they had to know these these kind of things. And today we look at our plotter, and it gives you the tide graph.
That's right.
It gives you the water temperature. It gives you the lunar phase. I mean the moon phase. It gives you, everything. It just turn it on, and it's all there right at your fingertips. But if it ever goes out now, you'll be able to.
That's right.
If you lose your internet.
Or get an EMP or whatever it is, they can know how to fish.
You'll be ahead of everybody.
What a cool generation. And, when I was growing up, I didn't have the internet. So to a certain extent, I came from that generation as well. And to a certain extent,
did the same thing. Knew everything, how to run this bay at night to go floundering. He knew when the tide was going to be falling on this beach. I've got to be here in a few hours. So we'd be floundering somewhere, and the motor would start, and we're going to that spot.
Did it seem like magic to you?
Yeah, and when we got there, those fish, well, especially on flounder, he wanted to have that incoming tide where those fish are hitting the beaches. So when we start pulling down those flats, he would start seeing those beds on which way they're facing, and he'd find that fresh bed, and he would find the flounder that way. You'd see a bed here, and then that tide come up a little more, and he'd shift, because he's on a flounder's waiting for something to come by, and he hits it, and he's not out there just searching like a redfish. So we'd find those beds, and he'd just walk himself right on in and find that flounder that's been bedding that whole tide, incoming tide.
Did it all seem like magic and witchcraft to you at the time as a kid?
It was, that was an awesome time, to be able to grow up like that, sleep on those boats. Especially tonight, it's dead calm, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, you get those right tide, and he would know right now. He's 83, on a full moon, what part of this beach to hit when those fish are going to start hitting that beach. Every bar that we hit, he still has that. He's sharp as a tack.
I bet if you asked him, he based it on the moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he wants to know. He would want to know when that tide's pushing those fish in.
Well, he didn't look at a tide chart. I'm sure he looked at the moon.
Just kind of, he knew. We'd go, and every night we rode around. Just every night when we ate supper, my dad would ride to that field over there between Appalachia and East Point. And I just thought about that, so it just kind of brought back that memory to see what the wind was doing. Even if we went or not, he just wanted to know. Rode out there every day. They still ride around. He's still thinking about it, but it was cool.
How old is your dad?
83.
83, my age.
Yep. Yeah.
You're not going to say anything?
You're not 83.
But I will say the Shaw's generation
You will be.
had
You
such
will
a
be.
sharper.
And you're getting closer, but you ain't 83.
Yeah.
But you've been saying it for like 4 years now that you're 83.
I know. I just feel 83, I guess.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Flip. Thanks for sharing that with us. And you're sitting here next to two guys that appreciate that kind of knowledge and that information, and appreciate the moment of sitting here sharing that with you more than you'll ever know. Yeah. So, as always, friends, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode, because look what you could miss and look what you could learn. And hit the like button. That just makes us feel good. And stay tuned. We've got a lot more fly fishing content coming your way, and it's very likely you might see Flip Pallot or Travis Huckabae. saltwaterflyfishingsolutions.com.
Is that a ladle you're holding?
FlipPallot.com. This is a ladle, and we just used this moments ago to spoon shrimp out of a cooler that Travis brought. What a fantastic trip we've had. What a fantastic night. So, again, stay tuned, friends. We've got a lot more coming your way.